Understanding critical thinking. When being smart isn't the same as being wise. Have you ever realized being smart doesn't always mean being deep? We live in a world where everyone has an opinion, but few truly understand. Every day, we scroll through endless posts, watch countless videos, but how often do you stop and ask, is this really true? Does it make sense? Or is it just what I want to believe? Critical thinking isn't about arguing, it's about having the courage to question yourself. It's the power to take a step back, observe, and admit that sometimes, what we've believed for years might not be entirely true. Thought balloon. In an age flooded with information, a critical thinker isn't someone who knows everything, but someone who knows where to doubt. This video will help you truly understand critical thinking, the difference between being intelligent and being insightful. Don't just listen, start with your own way of thinking. Subscribe now and get your special gift, the ebook, Understand Critical Thinking the Right Way. Critical thinking is not about opposition. When people hear the term critical thinking, many instantly imagine arguing, debating, or pointing out others' mistakes. But that's just the surface. The essence of critical thinking isn't about opposing, it's about looking deeper to understand better. Imagine standing before an abstract painting. The first person says, "I don't get it." The second asks, "What might the artist be expressing through these colors?" The third remains silent for a while, then quietly says, "Maybe this painting reflects something inside us." Same image, three perspectives. That's where critical thinking begins, not in finding who's right or wrong, but in discovering the meaning behind what we see. A true critical thinker isn't someone who always tries to prove they're right, but someone who dares to ask questions to understand more deeply. Not to win an argument, but to gain clarity about life and about themselves. So when you practice critical thinking, don't fear disagreeing with others. Fear more the moment you stop questioning and simply accept what you've always believed. Because sometimes, the greatest act of critical thinking is questioning your own old beliefs. The power of asking the right questions. People often say, those with many answers will succeed. But in truth, it's those who ask the right questions who go the farthest. Critical thinking begins with the ability to ask questions, not to doubt everything, but to discover what's truly worth believing. Think back to when you were a child, when you asked, "Why is the sky blue? Why do people work?" Or, "Why should I believe that?" You weren't being rebellious. You were simply curious to understand more deeply. Yet as we grow up, we start to fear asking. We fear being judged as difficult, different, or annoying. And slowly, we begin to accept things out of habit, believing because others believe, doing because others do, thinking because others think. That's when critical thinking quietly falls asleep. One right question can open an entirely new horizon. It helps us not just hear, but truly understand. It helps us see what lies beneath the surface of truth. So instead of rushing for quick answers, learn to pause and ask slowly. Sometimes, a single why can completely change the way you see your life. The intelligent may answer well, but the wise are those who ask well. Seeing from many angles, the power of multi-dimensional thinking. One of the most common human mistakes is believing we've already seen enough. When we're used to viewing the world through a single frame, everything seems simple, black or white, right or wrong. But life isn't just two colors. Between black and white are countless shades of gray. And in that gray zone, true wisdom is born. Critical thinking doesn't force us to take sides. It teaches us to see from many perspectives. Because every viewpoint carries a piece of truth. When we can listen even to what we disagree with, we are expanding the boundaries of our own mind. It's like observing a cube from one angle. It's a square from another, a rectangle, and only when you turn it in your hand do you see the real shape. A critical thinker doesn't rush to judge, because they know every opinion has its context. They learn to ask, if I stood in their place, what would I see differently? And in that moment, when we pause to view from another angle, our mind becomes free. Sometimes, expanding your perspective is the simplest way to expand yourself. Mistakes, the silent teacher of critical thinking. We're often told, don't make mistakes, but if we never make mistakes, how can we ever learn what's truly right? On the journey of developing critical thinking, mistakes aren't failures, they're proof that you're learning to see deeper. Every stumble is not merely the result of ignorance, but an opportunity to understand yourself more clearly. A critical thinker doesn't run away from mistakes. They ask, why did this happen? What did I miss? How can I do it differently next time? These very questions are what turn mistakes into wisdom. While others rush to conclude, I'm not good enough, the critical thinker says, I just found one more way that didn't work. Their view of mistakes carries not guilt, but curiosity. And when we dare to face our errors without excuses or fear, that's the moment we grow stronger, deeper, and freer. Because sometimes, the greatest lessons don't come from being right, but from having the courage to be wrong. Emotions. The companion and the challenge of critical thinking. When we talk about critical thinking, most people think of reason, logic, and calm analysis. But the truth is, emotions are present in every human decision. The key isn't to eliminate emotions, but to recognize and manage them. Think about the last time you got angry over a comment online, or felt hurt because someone disagreed with you. In those moments, emotions take control, and we stop thinking. We start reacting. A true critical thinker isn't emotionless. They listen to their emotions without being ruled by them. They pause for a second before responding and ask, am I reacting to the truth, or to my ego? That small pause makes a big difference. It helps us shift from instinct to awareness, from reaction to understanding. Because critical thinking isn't just about analyzing with the mind, it's also about understanding what the heart is trying to say. When reason and emotion walk together, we don't just become smarter, we become wiser and kinder. Belief and evidence. Distinguishing feeling from truth. Humans often believe in what feels right, not necessarily what is right. We are drawn to information that aligns with our existing beliefs. It makes us feel safe. But critical thinking teaches the opposite, to question even our own feelings. As philosopher Francis Bacon once said, man prefers to believe what he wishes to be true, rather than what is true. And that's why misunderstandings, biases, and conflicts continue to exist around us. A critical thinker doesn't reject belief, they simply demand evidence. They ask, is this based on facts or just feelings? Do I believe this because it's true, or because I want it to be true? Once we learn to separate belief from evidence, we begin to see the world with awakened eyes. And surprisingly, the more we question, the more compassionate we become. Because understanding the limits of our beliefs allows us to listen more and judge less. In the end, critical thinking isn't about defeating others, it's about defeating our own blindness. Critical thinking, the compass in a chaotic world. We live in an era where information is everywhere, yet truth is rare. Every day, we're bombarded with opinions, headlines, and algorithms, and without critical thinking, it's easy to drift with emotional waves or popular noise. Critical thinking is the compass that guides us through this ocean of data. It doesn't just separate right from wrong, it helps us stay grounded in our own values and clarity. A critical thinker knows how to pause before reacting, listen before judging, and understand before speaking. That isn't weakness, it's the strength of self-awareness. In this noisy world, anyone can speak, but only those who think differently are truly heard. Critical thinking doesn't make you cold, it makes you clear and compassionate. Because once you understand how the world works, you'll choose dialogue over debate, learning over labeling, and growth over ego. Perhaps that's the real meaning of understanding critical thinking, a journey to become not just smarter, but deeper as a human being. Conclusion: the journey of a mind that thinks differently. Critical thinking isn't something you master overnight. It's a journey of intellectual and emotional growth. It begins with one simple question: why do I believe this? And from that question, the doors of awareness and mental freedom start to open. When you begin to see the world through a critical lens, you'll realize there are no absolute answers, only perspectives expanding. And in that process, you not only understand the world better, but also understand yourself. The world today doesn't lack intelligence, it lacks depth. A critical thinker doesn't seek to be right, they seek to understand. They don't aim to win, they aim to grow. If you've made it this far, perhaps you're ready for your own journey of difference. Subscribe, download the ebook, Understanding Critical Thinking, and share your reflections. Remember, every step you take is a step toward growth.